Gurmila Magat, Alaska and Corlia. Aintu is a left-of-centre Irish Republican grassroots movement. We seek a prosperous Ireland where you work hard, take risks, invest time, effort and resources. You receive a fair and economic return for that work. We understand there must be a spark in the economy, an incentive that will drive people to achieve for their family. We also seek a safety net for families in terms of housing, healthcare, education and income when times are tough. We seek a society that is cohesive. Cohesiveness is really important to who we are. Globally and in Ireland, there is an increasing shift of wealth into the hands of the very few. Unbelievably, 2,153 billionaires across the world hold as much wealth today as 4.6 billion people, who make up about 60% of the population of the planet. This is a radical shift in wealth, a radical concentration of wealth into the hands of the very few. It's a major injustice, and it is a significant, destabilizing element in societies around the world. Housing is one of the manifestations of this type of growing inequality. And the provision of the ICESCR that stood out to me was the comprehensive and substantive right to adequate housing. Inherent in this right, it states very clearly, it says adequate privacy, adequate space, adequate security, adequate lighting and ventilation, adequate basic infrastructure, and adequate location with regard work and basic facilities, all at a reasonable cost. And this seems like a pipe dream in so many people's lives in this country. It also entails protections and commitments to eliminate homelessness and safeguards against forced evictions. I was here a number of weeks ago and I raised the fact for the first time in this chamber that nearly 60 people had died in homelessness in Dublin alone. I brought these figures to the Dáil. And I also brought the fact that people outside of Dublin who were homeless in Dublin were being refused services and told to go back to their own counties, despite the fact that these individuals were told as well to adhere to COVID regulations and not travel. Yet we saw the Minister for Housing, Darragh O'Brien, the Fianna Fáil Minister, appear on the RTE Investigates show weeks after that debate here in Leinster House and simply shrug his shoulders when confronted with this shocking practice. The Minister has also promised an investigation into the deaths of those people who died in homelessness in Dublin. Where stands that investigation today? There's no information circulated with regards to that. In housing, we see house prices spiralling again. We see the building of houses actually grinding to a halt this year. A whole generation currently are trapped in spiralling rents. It's amazing, that you have a situation in Dublin where the average rent is now €2,044 a month. If you're on the minimum wage, currently your gross income a year for a 40-hour a week is $3,000 less than the average rent in Dublin. And that's the before-tax figure. It's startling. Yesterday we saw a situation where the Society of Chartered Surveyors in Ireland, not shockingly, but confirmed what people understood to be true. They said that the cheapest accommodation currently, the two-bedroom apartment to buy in Dublin, is coming in at €375,000. They indicated that you have to have an income of €100,000, either as an individual or as a couple, to achieve that cheapest housing unit currently in Dublin. Think about that. Under Fine Gael, 10 long years of Fine Gael, you have to have an income of €100,000 or more if you expect to own accommodation in Dublin. That's an incredible situation. It's a shocking fact. It obliterates all the spin with regards to housing that we've heard from Fine Gael and from Fianna Fáil in recent times. And it puts into sharp relief the reality of government policies in these people's lives. Aintu is committed to justice in the workplace and the rights of workers right across Ireland to a fair wage for fair work and to allow for decent living conditions. Low pay and precarious work affects the lives of many workers across Ireland. And Ireland has many laws on workers' rights, but inadequate enforcement of these rights. We need a strong and well-resourced agency to inspect compliance with regards to labour legislation, including practices in relation to minimum pay, contract work and rights of parental leave and sick pay. Aintu also believes in self-determination of the Irish people. Self-determination was a key driving force in the revolution here in Ireland 100 years ago. But Brexit has shown that self-determination of the people of the north of Ireland is still ignored. The Tories took the democratic decision of the people of the north of Ireland with regards to Brexit, they scrunched it in a ball and they threw it in the waste paper basket. Self-determination is being withheld from the people of the north, and there is a debate right now growing across Ireland on Irish unity. COVID has been another driving force in that debate. The inability of the administrations north and south to simply cooperate for the protection of people's lives has been absolutely startling. But despite this debate, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Greens refuse to remove their heads from the sand on this issue. Aintu is a pluralist movement built on the philosophy of Wolfe Tone, where all citizens have a right to be who they are to their full extent, without fear or favour from the state. But Ireland is a fiercely orthodox and uniform state. The politics of Ireland has radically changed over the last 30 years, but the intolerance of differing views is as it always was. Establishment Ireland wears the clothes of diversity, declares that all views are welcome on the full spectrum of opinion, as long as they conform with our own views. Groupthink and herd mentality are the curse of the Irish society. The credits crisis, the property crisis of 12 years ago is a perfect example of this, and people who criticised the policies of Fianna Fáil at the time were demonised. Open and respectful debate is critical in rigorously holding the establishment to account. Open and honest debate is not the enemy of a functioning democracy. It is a pivotal part of that democracy. This uniformity, I believe, is not helped by an overly concentrated media market which is dominated by RTE. Shockingly, Aintu is now the only political party in this House that supports the universal human right to life. We're the only party in the House that believes everybody should have the human right to life, that everyone's lives should be protected, even the most vulnerable. And universal means everyone. If you remove a section of humanity from those rights, it is no longer a universal right. It is only a sectional right. So I'm delighted that Deputy Pringle has brought this debate to the table. It is an important issue that we focus in this time of COVID, that while COVID eclipses most other issues currently due to the enormity of the crisis, there lies dozens of significant crises still within Irish society that need our attention too. Gur míle maith agat a lasceann comhairle.